for his association and very much hope that this meeting will be the beginning of a new chapter for re-engaging with the association and share his wisdom so that we can take the association to even higher level. I would also like to thank panelists, paper presenters, moderators, chairs, and rapporteurs, without whom this conference could not have been organized. Thank you all. We also, as Dr. Semene noted, we also have participants who have traveled thousands of miles to be with us. These include from Kenya, Ghana, Rwanda, and Uganda. We have paper presenters from the USA, France, particularly Paris School of Economics, and the IGC team from the UK. Please join me in thanking them all. It is this kind of continental and global partnership that will contribute to our vision of becoming a premier economics association in Africa by 2030. Excellencies, conference participants, ladies and gentlemen, EEA is a non-profit, non-partisan, and independent research and membership organization. Its members now stand at over 5,000, with female participation around 1,000, which is really less than 20%. So we know exactly what to do. We have to do more to attract our more female economists. The association provides a platform of networking, experiential learning, and generates evidence-based recommendations on social, economic, and environmental problems that inform policymakers, practitioners, the business community, researchers, development partners, and the general public. Most importantly, the Ethiopian Economic Association contributes to frontier of economic thinking, advanced research methodologies. Let me give some examples of this. Over the last couple of years, Ethiopia has been facing numerous challenges. Inflation, or the cost of living crisis, is one of these challenges. EEA has been at the forefront of researching the cause and effects of this economic phenomena, with particular focus on transmission mechanisms, which the general public often wonders about. The findings have been disseminated through various publications, dedicated book, leaflets, policy briefs, and dialogue forum. Conflict is another challenge that Ethiopian economy has been struggling with. EEA, in collaboration with the Independent Council of Economic Advisors, conducted research on the economic impact of conflict and put forward concrete recommendations for reconstruction and rehabilitation. I'm very pleased at this point to inform you that our two previous presidents actually lead this council, Dr. Alemayehu Suyum Tafese and Dr. Tadela Farada. EEA has initiated a project designed to generate a single multidimensional development index for Ethiopia in the first instance, later on for global development. We believe that this national index will be extremely useful to the regional and federal government for allocating resources and comparing regional development and social and economic development. This is a huge undertaking that EEA cannot do it alone. We have launched a partnership campaign to accomplish this project, which we hope that all of you are here will be an ambassador for us in finding a reliable partner to complete the project. Your Excellencies, distinguished conference participants, EEA has always been a reliable partner to regional governments. this tradition continued over the last 12 months. Most notable collaborations we had were with Afar, Oromia, and Somali regional states. For Afar, EEA conducted a socio-economic survey and identified potential areas of investment in pastoral, agro-pastoral, and those actually exiting pastoral livelihoods. The work with Oromia Planning and Development Commission included estimating regional human development index, which is the first of its kind in Ethiopia, inflation in the region, saving investment gap analysis, and the effect of rural out-migration. Our work in Somali region investigates the revenue potential and tax basis and administration capacity of the region. These engagements, as well as our regional chapters, are contributing to the regional capacity in economic research, analysis, and reporting. In addition to research outputs, EEA organizes policy forums in a number of contemporary macro and micro issues. As soon as the African Continental Free Trade Area came into being, EEA was one of the first to bring stakeholders together to examine implications of such a regional free trade area on the Ethiopian economy. We believe the pros and cons of joining any economic union or bloc should be debated at all levels, from grassroots to national level. And the decision should be based on evidence and putting the national interest first. Other issues we debated include export performance and structural problems, land issues, agricultural industry linkage, and so on. These policy forums and the variety of short-term trainings for members and stakeholders are contributing to the fulfillment of our mission as the learning organization. Conference participants. EEA is regularly invited by various national and international media to explain the ongoing economic phenomena. It's collaborating with national and international sister organizations in various research agenda and co-organizing dialogue forums. Immediately after this conference, EEA is privileged to organize Evidence to Action Conference in collaboration with the International Center for Evaluation and Development based in Nairobi. I very much hope that those of you who have received the invitation will join us on this major event. I fully recognize, and the executive committee fully recognizes that the members, our members, and the general public feel that these efforts are not enough, that we need to do more. It is a right to expect, and it's our duty to deliver. Within the constraints that we are operating, we will try to do more as you wish us to do so. Furthermore, EEA has a long-standing tradition of contributing to the quality of economics education. We are taking this to a higher level and soon launching the School of Economics and Allied Sciences with 2 programs in the first instance: monetary and financial economics and energy and environmental economics. These programs will generate high-caliber economists that can play crucial roles in the design and implementation of small and large projects. We hope that this school will open, and in my estimation, we are 95% there. 5% is probably fulfilling some administrative procedures, and if we have any difficulty, I think we know where to come to find the solution. Excellencies, as you can see from the conference program, and also as Dr. Smin has indicated, this year's conference, like its predecessors, has assembled mouth-watering research papers, plenary and panel discussions. I believe they would allow for an in-depth discussion of topical issues on the state of the Ethiopian economy and some global issues. It's now time to thank our partners and collaborators who have shared our vision, provided us with generous financial support to organize this conference. This includes the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung of Germany. By the way, this organization has been with us since the inception, and for the last 30 years, they have been supporting us. And we also have UNECA, the European Union, UNICEF, World Bank, International Growth Center, and the Oromia Planning and Development Commission. I thank them all. Before I invite His Excellency, the Governor of the National Bank of Ethiopia, to deliver his opening address, I would like to say a few words. To Mamo Mihretu is the 10th Governor of the National Bank of Ethiopia, and perhaps the youngest, which can also be inspiring to many of our young economists. He has served as the founding CEO of the Ethiopian Investment Holdings, the strategic investment arm of the government, and manages all key public commercial companies such as the Ethiopian Airlines and Ethio Telecom. Mamo is a member of the Macroeconomic Council, the body that steers economic policy and strategic decisions. As member of the economic reform team, he contributed to the development and implementation of Ethiopia's economic reform program. As board member of the Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, he also spearheaded the transformation of the largest bank in the country. In the early days of the reform, Mamo served as the senior policy advisor to the Prime Minister and was Ethiopia's chief trade negotiator. It's worth noting that Mamo brought immense experience from the World Bank Group, where he was a senior project manager in the Kenya office overseeing operations in Ethiopia as well. His educational background is equally distinguished. He kicked off with a law degree from Addis Ababa University and obtained a master's degree in leadership, public administration, and economic development from the Kennedy School of Governance at Harvard University, one of the eminent schools that EEA's School of Economics aims to emulate. He also holds a postgraduate degree in trade and investment from the University of Pretoria and the University of Amsterdam. I now kindly invite His Excellency to deliver his opening address and officially open the 20th International Conference on the Ethiopian Economy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Excellency Professor Birhanu Nagga, Minister of Education, Dr. Amdissa Teshome, President of Ethiopian Economic Association, invited guests, participants, colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to open the 20th International Conference on Ethiopian Economy, organized by Ethiopian Economics Association. And let me first and foremost start by paying tribute to the Ethiopian Economics Association, perhaps the leading professional association in the country, with thousands of members, with a track record of achievements behind it, and for staying engaged and relevant over the course of the past 3 decades or so, despite, I'm sure, several challenges and uncertainties along the way. Indeed, the EEA that we have today has been at the forefront of solid policy research, thought leadership, and advice since day one. The EEA has been our national think tank that helped us stimulate purposeful dialogue and our bulwark to challenge the often unthinking and at times damaging ideology that's thrown to us with the zeal of a missionary. For all your successes, for all your accomplishments, I want to say congratulations. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has changed dramatically since we held this conference last. A series of shocks have upended our old reality and replaced it with new uncertainties. An occasion like this, therefore, should involve a degree of reflection about our current reality, a reflection about our future direction, and about what comes next. In that spirit, I want to argue that the global economy has now reached a critical and perilous juncture. Policymakers everywhere are facing a unique cocktail of challenges. Unique because, taken in isolation, they might not be new and perhaps arguably it's possible to overcome these obstacles. But their combination and that they happen at a global scale makes them particularly daunting. First, we have a cost of living crisis. Inflation has risen sharply here at home and elsewhere, partly fueled by surging energy, food, and fertilizer prices. Let's take fuel as an example. This year alone, we will spend more than $4.2 billion on fuel imports. As recently as 2 years ago, this was below $2 billion. So this an extra $2 billion in foreign exchange that could have been channeled to a wide range of other priorities, from capital goods to infrastructure to machinery to a lot else is now being spent on fuel import. Similarly, global prices for food and fertilizer have in some cases doubled from past norms and consumed a substantially higher share of an already limited foreign exchange supply. Second, private and public debt have now reached new high. This was partly driven by COVID, when governments around the world provided substantial stimulus to their economies and direct support to their citizens by relaxing fiscal and monetary policies. And Ethiopia is an exception in this regard. Yet another significant issue is a large drop in what were previously large financing sources for developing countries, and especially in African countries. Looking at flows to Africa in particular, 3 separate sources of external financing have all dropped sharply in the last few years. Official financing or official aid, private sector financing by global banks and bond markets, and financing from China have all dropped in the last few years. It's no surprise that the IMF has called this an unprecedented funding squeeze, where borrowing costs have increased, cheap private capital is no more, and inflows from the largest official lender in the world, that is to say China, have for many countries simply collapsed. Finally, what's unique for Ethiopia is the tragic domestic conflict that we unfortunately went through and that distracted us from reform program in so many ways, but particularly in plans for fiscal consolidation and monetary restraint. These multiple crises, or poly-crisis if you will, imply an enduring setback to years of development gains if not properly and urgently addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, it is within this context of this very challenging global background that I want to present the record of Ethiopia's recent economic performance. To start with the positives, the Ethiopian economy has really proved to be remarkably resilient in multiple respects. I'll come to the many problems and challenges that we will still face, and that many are quick to highlight, but allow me first to list many notable accomplishments of the past few years. Economic growth has declined somewhat, but is still held up well at close to 6% for the last 3 years. Our growth also remains relatively broad-based, being driven by a combination of agriculture, service, and industry. On the fiscal side, the deterioration of the fiscal deficits have been limited. Difficult subsidy reform, particularly in the fuel sector, have been implemented, helping minimize fiscal risks, and a tight management of new SOE borrowing, including avoidance of non-concessional debt, has worked to reduce and control future liabilities. Treasury bill auctions were successfully launched to provide a market-based system for domestic borrowing, replacing the previous mandatory NB bills, and despite, of course, the much higher financing cost for government. Work on launching capital market have proceeded with a new proclamation passed, a capital market authority established. Key sectors such as telecom, banking have been liberalized and opened up. Ease of doing business reforms have been implemented for the foundation for start of capital market and stock exchange has been laid. I can go on and on and on the list of reforms. Of course, a balanced review cannot also fail to mention the many areas where economic policy and economic outcomes has fallen short. Inflation is too high. The foreign exchange situation is very difficult. Debt servicing remains a major challenge, even if our debt stock is not that high. And as we all know, there are a range of structural and sector-specific bottlenecks in the case of ease of doing business, in logistics, in manufacturing, and so many other areas where fundamental reform is still needed. So to summarize, I would say the recent economic developments show a mixed picture. There is a lot to celebrate and recognize as accomplishments, especially in the midst of a very difficult global and conflict conditions, but there is also a lot in the policy area that needs more work, some course correction, some rethinking, and some reimagining. This is where I think we are now. How best can we focus on the areas that need some more work, some course correction, and some rethinking? From the unique vantage point of the central bank, let me now say to where I think we can play a special role, and where and how can we work jointly with both EEA and the broader economics profession in making real differences. From NB's perspective, we are working very intensely on 3 areas within our mandate. First, restoring price and external stability. Second, championing financial sector modernization and inclusion, while of course safeguarding risks. And third, becoming a more transparent, collaborative, learning and knowledge generating institution. On our first key priority area, restoring stability, the NEB is taking on this task very seriously and is working hard to make this a reality within a short period of time. To be more precise, the direction and objective of monetary policy from here on will be focused very specifically to bring inflation down. The insidious damage that a high inflation regime does to the economic and social fabric is well known. It's a burden on those with fixed incomes. It hurts the most vulnerable in the society. It distorts economic decision-making in so many ways. And the longer inflation is allowed to persist, the greater the likelihood that it becomes entrenched. Our priority for this fiscal year, of course, is thus to reverse this state of affairs. Our second key priority is ensuring our financial sector is stable, modernized, and inclusive. All these sub-elements are mutually supportive. Stability can ensure the safety and reliability and inclusivity of the banking system. Modernization via digitization can enhance the inclusivity of the financial system. Our planned openness to fintechs, to foreign banks, and by next year to investment banks and other capital market service providers will all dramatically broaden the scale, scope, and range of services offered by our financing system. Our third priority is really focused on our internal workings as NBE, including our people, our processes, and also about upgrading our role as a learning and knowledge-generating institution. It is on this third area where I believe we can benefit from significant collaboration with institutions such as EEA and its members, and where I believe we can potentially establish true partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, in raising the issue of collaboration, let me conclude by the following points for your reflection and considerations. First, I want to make a call for action to the EEA, its members, on the types of policy issue I believe it must address and engage with. Second, I want to emphasize the importance of working in a collaborative and constructive manner and mindset. And third, I want to urge us all to focus on the practical and the feasible solution to the problems of the day without going into an unfortunate and all too common, unfortunately, habit we have of taking absolutist, extremist, and hyper-ideological positions. Let me say a few points on each and end my remarks. First, on the call of action. I would really request that EEA as an institution and its members to focus on the big economy policy issues of the day. Oftentimes, the economic commentaries that we see in the press or addressed in academic circles fail to address the many complex policy issues for which Ethiopia needs a true marketplace of ideas, contributions, and analysis. How can we best return to high growth without running into a debt trap? What priority policy measures can be taken to boost FX resources? How can we raise Ethiopia's low savings and investment rates? How best can we integrate into global marketplace of goods, services, and capital? What's the best we can do to boost crop yields, to diversify crops, to achieve food security? How can we raise manufacturing share in GDP and manufacturing exports and manufacturing employment? How can we encourage more widely shared, geographically distributed, and equitable growth? How can we best design our social safety net programs? How can we leverage our largely untouched resources in areas such as mining, green energy, in irrigation, etc.? These are the big economic policy issues of the day. And it's on these big policy issues that we really need multiple ideas, proposals, lessons, and recommendations. And it's precisely in these areas that EEA and its members can really make a difference. Second, my message would be for all of us to engage in a constructive collaboration. We at NBE are planning to improve our data analysis and research capabilities, and also deepen our collaboration with outsiders, universities, think tanks, and others. We also plan to provide a much more active and consistent sharing of data with the public and with researchers via our website and other channels to foster active and timely research. We want to restart more active working paper series, a visiting speaker series, a visiting researchers program, a visiting student intern program, and much more. In all this, we will work to seek constructive collaborations, and the EEA can be a valuable partner in this journey. Third, my message, and indeed my plea, would be for us to focus on a practical, evidence-based ideas, proposals, and solutions, rather than falling into an unfortunate habit we sometimes see of absolutist, extremist, and hyper-ideological debate and positions. The key point I want to underline here is the need for practical, evidence-based ideas and research that can feed into effective policy making. Economic policy making is full of issues where simple theoretical solutions or strongly held ideological positions are not helpful, but rather where careful judgments and weighing of the evidence is vital. Issues such as deciding on the size of a budget deficit, or the appropriate stance of monetary policy, or the merits or demerits of privatization, or the cost or benefit of exchange rate reform, or the use of private versus public sector solutions to certain economic challenges, I believe these are all best addressed by approaching the issue with an open mind, with recognition of the Ethiopian context, with an understanding of the realities on the ground, and ultimately with evidence-based approach to decision making. I hope this is the same spirit that we can all take. Just to conclude, I hope EEA, its members, and the broader economic community can really collectively make a contribution to addressing the many pressing economic policy issues today, that we work in a collaborative and constructive spirit, and that ultimately we all aim to be true to EEA's own principles of evidence-based analysis, research, and inputs to good economic policy making. And as you all know, good economic policy making can, like being endowed with natural resources or high capital or labor resources, ultimately make a major difference in fostering growth, development, and improved living standards for all. I thank you so much for your attention.